Hey, good evening. Let's talk about a couple things tonight on our In Motion session. I'm at the park where I live right near Villanova, and their baseball team practices here, so I'm just going to hang out near their bleachers tonight. See over here? So it's kind of fun watching them practice. This is a great place to take a walk too. You remember me talking about living your life like the Stoic philosophers? Let me just adjust this thing so I'm not... There we go, that's better. That doesn't mean denying your emotions. You're an emotional being. God put you on this earth. He gave you emotions. You are just not to live by those emotions. You'll get something out of this if you listen close. The other morning, you know I'm a cat fan, and the other morning one of my cats escaped through a screen, a hole that got ripped in a screen. And as I was feeding the cats, and you know I pour my life into these animals, it escaped through the screen. And as I was feeding them, they all came one at a time. I'm like, well, where's Joey at? Where's Joey? He's usually the first one. So I just looked around the house. Maybe he's sleeping, because usually as soon as I pop open the can, there's Joey. Well, I didn't see Joey. He didn't show up. I started looking around, making sure that he's not sleeping or like in a little cubby hole somewhere. So I just went to all the windows that were propped open in the house, and this is what I discovered. I saw that there was a rip in one, and that there was about a 3 or 4 inch vertical tear, and the bottom was completely out. And it freaked me out because that's the window that Joey was in. And it's only 4 feet off the ground, so it's not like it was on a second floor. But this is what freaked me out, was that he had never been an outside cat before. And I had a choice at that moment. Joey is a little over a year old. I love him to death. I poured my heart and soul into these animals. And what happened was, I could have panicked at that moment, but I didn't. What happened was, I immediately went into what I would call first responder mode. And for me, that means systematically going through the house, unemotional, going outside, looking around close to the house, close to the yard, and then under the deck and so forth, to the area where the Van Gogh room is. And what had happened, I didn't see anything anywhere. And then within an hour, I saw him at the far end of the yard, actually with his mama, who was a wild cat, and they were kind of like licking each other and kind of caring for each other. And I saw the look on his face, and then within a second, he was over at the window. I went over to the window and opened up the screen, put some treats on the windowsill, and he jumped back in. And he was scared to death, man. I could just tell he was freaked. And he's just a little thing. Joey is just a little tiger kitty. But here is the issue. Then I went, here I am at the bocce courts. One of my favorite places to be. Anyone like playing bocce? I know a lot of people say it's such an old man's sport, but you know what? I don't care. Hey, my dad's in his 80s. He plays bocce every Tuesday. Cuts all their hair. They all bring their food and homemade wine and all that. Let me get back up on the trail here. I just don't want all the noise of everyone else in the video. Maybe I'll go up to the volleyball court, sand volleyball court. Yeah. So I was getting ready for my trip to go upstate to see my friend Jody. And what had happened was I was a little bit late because I had to search for Joey. Thank God he came back, because it freaked me out. Like, internally there was like a slight freak out factor that he would be lost forever. My mind didn't start to go to good places right away. So I had to start controlling my thoughts immediately. Immediately start controlling the doubts that came by, that were just floating by in my mind. And I didn't want to just grab them and run with them. Run with the negative thoughts. So as I'm packing, just throwing some stuff in a bag, because it was a short trip. As I was packing, let me just sit down on the wall here. There we go. That way you can see me perfectly. I have a this camera right now is on kind of a, what it is, it's an extendable snow brush. Hold on. Without the snow brush attachment on it. Hold on, let me just tighten that up. There we go, that's better. And as I was packing, I just started crying. The tears flew out of my face. And I just covered my face, and I was just like, almost like hyperventilating for a second. Got a good cry in. A drenching cry. And then I just went in the bathroom, splashed some water on my face, patted my face dry. And that, folks, is no accident. A lot of people would have freaked out from the very first second. When you encounter chaos, turmoil, crisis, emergencies, unplanned events, your job as a non-emotional person, as a person who practices Stoicism, and I'm not talking about the religion of Stoicism. It's compatible with just being a human being, and it's very effective. It's an effective way of emotional and mental management. If I initially freaked out and cried and panicked and allowed that to go through my body and feel it in my body, nothing would have gotten done. But after the job was completed, after I did all that I could, then the emotions came out. And it came out pretty spontaneously. I wasn't even thinking about it. And it made me come up with the concept for this video, which helps me better describe some of the stuff that I was telling you about earlier in earlier videos about Stoicism, about leaving the emotions out of it. Here's the key to this whole video. I'm not asking you to deny your emotions. I'm asking you to delay your emotions when crisis, chaos, and unplanned events hit. Whether it be a car crash, or your house burning down, or your spouse tells you they no longer want to be married, or your girlfriend or boyfriend breaks up with you. When these things happen, don't deny your emotions, because there's a time and place for everything. Delay them, because there is a time and place for everything. If you are just a pure stoic, then you're a robot. Then you're no different than the beasts of the field that just graze on grass all day. I'm asking you to delay your emotions so you can get the work done that needs to be done. And don't do anything unhealthy. When I talk to people who have been divorced, let's say you just find out your spouse is leaving you, or there's a crisis, just any one of a million crises that can happen. Many people will start doing unhealthy things, and then guess what happens? You're 2 or 3 problems removed away from the original problem, and then you don't know where to begin. You don't know what to start attacking first. Deal with things unemotionally first. Don't deny the emotions, delay them for a better time. There's people who have free-floating grief forever. That's why I say pre-plan your grief. I remember there was one time I was going through a grieving period. I guess I was in my late 20s, early 30s. There was a certain thing that happened that just made me sad. I was just sad, 24/7. And then I said, I can't live like this. I have to compartmentalize my grief. I can't live my life on an emotional level like this. So what I did, and at the time I was taking a toll road to work. I would go through, and at the time there was no easy pass. At that time it was, you go through the toll booth, you get your ticket, you go, 35 miles, you go through the toll booth, you hand your ticket in and you pay your money for the toll. And I would use my driving time on the Pennsylvania Turnpike as my grieving time. I would get my ticket, as soon as I was on the highway, set the cruise control on 70, I would just start crying. And I would cry for a good 15 to 20 minutes, till there was no more tears left. And then, see the sign, toll 2 miles, dry up the tears, and then I was fine for the rest of the day. Because I did not allow it to just be this nagging grief that lasted forever. Don't deny your emotions. Delay them. Compartmentalize your grief, your sadness. Be like a first responder. Be in control of yourself. Do not let your emotions control you. That's a great way to live. And you'll get a lot more done as a man, as a woman, and you'll feel better about yourself. Give it a shot. Thanks.